for those who don't know me, my name's William Faucette. I'm a Grand President here with World Global. Been with the company about 3 months now and have been in the industry about 27 years and have been everything from struggling representative to top producer to corporate exec in the industry. So I've seen a lot of different things from many different perspectives, and I'm very excited because I believe World is the best vehicle that I'll see and has an opportunity to truly be one of the greats. And that's very unique because if you look at the biggest companies in the industry, those that are considered the best companies in the industry, most of them are decades old. And so to have a company that's just over 5 years old, that is, truly just getting started, particularly here in North America, and to believe that it has enough in place in terms of management, field leadership, product, and compensation, among others, to believe that it could truly become one of the greats in the industry, it's very exciting. And so in my case, I had stepped back from what I was doing in the industry, finally decided to look for something else, was actually in a position to speak with CEOs of other companies to find out what they were doing, and a few investor groups who wanted to start things and wanted me to be involved in that, and instead chose to get started here with World as a representative. That's how big the opportunity was to me. So as we get started here this evening, this training is something that's very important. There's a cliche in our industry that says, sometime when you're down, you need the meeting. When you're up, the meeting needs you. And what we try to do here every week is to provide you just those few kernels of information that could be the difference between continuing to struggle, as I did in my early days in the industry, or having that proverbial aha moment where it seems like everything comes together and then you are able to go to work and nothing is the same. And if you don't believe that happens, it certainly does. I've actually seen that happen for people, to where something happened in their life or in their business that made a difference almost in an instant. And the great thing from a mindset standpoint that you have to understand is that things truly can happen in an instant. The word decision has a Latin root that basically means to cut off other options. And one of my first mentors in this industry taught me that providence moves when you truly get committed, when you truly bring your passion, and ultimately that is the key to your success. And I can say for me, you may have heard some of my story. I was terrible in the beginning. The only thing that kept me here, or by here in this industry, is my desire. And that often came through, and maybe I was so bad that people wanted to help me out. And ultimately, I did it enough. I did it long enough, wrong enough, where I started to get pretty good. And eventually I decided I liked it. And then I decided that I wanted to become one of the best in the industry. And so all of that happened in an instant when I certainly just made that decision. Now, the results of the decision may have taken weeks or months or even years in some cases, but it all happened when I simply made that decision. So there are a couple things that I want to share very quickly here this evening before we get to the other presenters. And it's so important that you understand that this business is simply a series of decisions. Just like life, it's a series of decisions, and ultimately the decisions you make direct your actions. Your actions ultimately shape your direction, and your direction shapes your destiny. And so you truly need to understand that every day you're making a choice, and those choices add up to where you are in your business. So the first decision I would suggest you make is taking responsibility for where you are in your business. It's not the company's fault. It's not your upline's fault. It's not your downline's fault. It's no one's fault but the person who looks back at you every morning in the mirror. And so, that may be a challenge. It may be uncomfortable, but it's also, for me, when I've struggled in this industry, it's also very freeing, because I realized if I got myself into a circumstance or situation, then I could get myself out of it. If where I am is totally dependent upon me, then where I'm going could be as well. And so, I would suggest that you make a decision to take full responsibility for anything that happens to you, in my opinion, not only in business, but in life. But the second thing you do, once you've done that, then you decide that you are going to manage your mindset, your moods, and your focus. And that, I believe, will be the key to your success. Because as I've said in the training on Saturday, very quickly in this business, people know what to do. It's not rocket science, right? I mean, at the end of the day, the person who gets to the most people, generally speaking, is going to win the battle of the paycheck. So if you don't think you're as good as Travis in that presentation you just did, let's say I think Travis is 3 times better than me. Well, that just means I need to get to 3 times the number of people to have about the same results of Travis. And ultimately, the great thing is, over time, my results will be much bigger because the growth is exponential. What I do gets duplicated. So if I say I'm going to get to 3 times the number of people as Travis or Mike or anybody else that I say I could never be as good as that person, number one, I'll get that good. And number two, my team will see that and they'll begin to do the same things that I'm doing. So you ultimately, this business is very simple. So it's not a question of what do I do after your first, few days or week or maybe month. It's a question of getting myself to do it. So you've got to be able to get leverage. I'll give you a simple example. I'm an introvert. I've said this before. If you get to see me on stage at one point, you'd be shocked to know that, but I definitely am. I tend to be pretty reserved. And so every time I get on an airplane, my tendency is to sit there and keep to myself. And there's always a moment when that plane, we sit down, the person next to me, I look at them, they may look at me, and then my mind starts talking. Oh, I don't feel like talking to this person. Sometimes, right? That's what it's going to say to me. And then I have a decision to make. I have to either choose to get leverage on myself, knowing that having that conversation could be very beneficial to me in a number of areas, or I decide to just go with the flow, take the easy way out, the comfortable way out in that moment, and I don't say anything. And I can tell you, I can't think of one conversation in 27 years of doing this that I've regretted in that circumstance or something similar. So it's always, for me, and this is just for me, for you, I remember a guy telling me about how he works his business, and he said that he actually found this mechanical pig, and he would take this mechanical pig and he would walk around the mall, and the mechanical pig was a good enough mechanical pig that it looked real. And so what would invariably happen is someone in the mall would think there was a real pig in the mall, and they'd go to security and they'd say, there's some nut in the mall walking around with a pig. And so security would rush over, this big crowd would gather around, and then he would show them that it was a fake pig, and he would prospect everyone in this circle. Now, 95% of you, or certainly the majority, are hearing that, and you're like me. Like, that is the dumbest idea I've ever heard. And in fact, for me, I'd rather go to the dentist than do something like that. 5% of you are thinking, where can I get a mechanical pig, right? That's a great idea. So here's the bottom line. Your issue may not be the same as mine, but I know you have something in your business that you need to get leverage on yourself and move yourself forward. And see, I know myself in this regard. I may struggle to some degree to start, but man, once I start, there's no stopping me. So that 5-minute period, I get leverage, man. I might prospect 10 people on that plane or 50 people that day just because I build that momentum. So what I want to encourage you to do is figure that out for yourself. Figure out what are those sticking points, what are those challenges, what are those areas that you truly need to grab that leverage, and then make a commitment, make a decision to do just that. And then finally, the best ways that you can manage the things I talked about, your mindset, your moods, etc., is through the use of empowering questions and affirmations. So we tend to ask ourselves negative questions. You want to ask yourself questions that serve you. Generally speaking, empowering questions are how questions. Negative questions tend to be why questions. The most common one people ask is, why does this always happen to me? Understand that right now you have the most powerful computer on the planet that's between your ears. The challenge is it doesn't come with an owner's manual. However, one thing we do know about it is that any question you ask it, it'll deliver an answer. So if I say, why does this always happen to me? Chances are it's going to deliver an answer, but that answer will not serve me. For example, because you're stupid, because you're unqualified. What makes you think you could ever succeed in something like this? I'll repeat those, negative thoughts and stories in my mind, and ultimately it will take me to a bad end, as opposed to saying, how can I use this to my advantage? Well, then your subconscious is going to produce an answer in that area that will serve you. So this is what I would suggest for the next 7 days. Just start in 7 renewable commitments to yourself. So that means 1 day at a time. Say that today I'm going to make a decision to be the best I can be. I'm going to manage my moods. I'm going to manage my state of mind. I'm going to manage my focus. And I'm going to do that all through my self-talk, the things that I say to myself, typically, which come in the form of questions. If you can do that, I would venture to say that you will find in 7 days, you've done more in your business, you've been more positive. Ultimately, you've just had a better week than you're used to having. So let's try that. Hopefully that's a mindset that's useful and helpful. I really want to get into the meat of our training, though. We're going to cover a couple of different areas. And the first trainer is someone who truly needs no introduction. I was just speaking about him, but I want to just say one thing about this gentleman. I didn't know him before coming to World Global. However, I was definitely impressed. My first impression, just seeing him doing a presentation. I remember someone texting me, man, this guy is good, and agreeing with them. And then I heard him when we were in Bangkok. We actually went to check out some clothing, and I heard him telling somebody else, the progress of his business and how close he had been to the position of president, and fallen just short. I think 2 or 3 times he was well in the 45,000 or so in volume. And first of all, that blew me away. But then secondly, what truly impressed me about him and his tenacity and commitment and his knowledge and expertise is that he came back from Bangkok and within a couple weeks actually pushed it over the edge to the president position. So I'm very, very pleased to be able to introduce him and say that about him. He's a colleague and become a friend. And I want to introduce to you to talk a little bit about vision and whatever else he chooses, our newest president on the team, Travis Flaherty. Oh. Gotcha. See, I figured I'd return the favor. Okay, it helps if I'm pressing the right person. I unmute the person under you too. So, okay, go ahead, Travis. Take it away.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I just want to talk about a couple of things here real quickly. So first of all, I want to talk a little bit about, number one, I want to start by talking about treating this like a business. And I'm going to share a story that I shared for those of you that were on the overview again, because I want everyone to really hear what I'm saying. I had an experience, and it was only just maybe a week ago, where I had a conversation with someone, and this person said, I've been in the business for a month, and it's just not working for me. And I'm thinking about quitting. I'm thinking about returning my product. And I just said, let me ask you a question. And I said, how long have you been in the business? And this person said, well, I've been in the business about 30 days. And I said, okay, so first of all, how many calls and how many calls have you been on? How many events have you attended? And this person said, well, I haven't attended that many. because I've been really, really busy with my traditional or my real business. And I said, okay. And I said, so what do you do? This person says, well, I'm a realtor. I said, okay, so let me ask you a question. Did it cost you money to become a realtor? And they said, well, yeah, I mean, it did cost me money to become a realtor. And I said, okay. And did you have to put time into becoming a realtor, like to go to school or something? They said, yeah, I did. I had to study and go to school for a certain period of time. And I said, okay, so once you became a realtor and you got that license, I'm assuming at that point that license now guaranteed you to be able to start earning money. And they said, well, no, I had to go out then and I had to start marketing and promoting my business. And I said, okay, so did that take time? And they said, yes, it did. And I said, okay, so how did you learn how to go out and promote your business? And they said, oh, well, my broker does a virtual call once a week that we can plug into. And then there's weekend seminars that we go to all the time. And then of course there's mentors that, have had the kind of success that I wanted. And so I started following them and I said, okay. And so, do you do well at your business now? And this person says, well, actually, yeah, I do really well now. And I said, okay, would you say it's because you treat it like a business? And they said, well, absolutely. I take my business very seriously. And I said, okay, well, let me tell you, we're not that different because I take my network marketing business very, very seriously. In fact, I'm on every single call, or at least I plan on being every call. Now, I don't make every call. There's things that are going on. I'm going to have to drop off of here in 11 minutes to do a launch call. I mean, that's business. But I plan on being on every call. And I've also not missed any events. I actually went all the way over to Thailand and I went to Las Vegas and I'm going to Sacramento. And you know what? I know it's easy for some people to say, well, yeah, it's because you're making money and you can afford to do that. Guys, look, I'm making that kind of money because of the commitment and the mindset and like Summer and I remember distinctly having garage sales so that we could make enough money to go to the events because we knew that we could, when we go to these events, that's what builds your belief up. It's where major decisions that are made. Will talked about it. I was in Thailand and I was so mad that I wasn't a president because the presidents kind of went off on their own little bus and Steve Carter and Will and Mike and all them were having fun and I couldn't go with them and it made me so mad. And I was like, I will never go to an event again without being a president. And I came home and boom, we got it knocked out. But it was a decision that was made when I was sitting there in Thailand. So I'm just saying that, so I said to this person, I said, so listen, I go to the events. I plan on being on every single call. And I've also spent tens of thousands of dollars on personal development over the last decade. And the reason why I do that is because it's all about the value that I bring to the marketplace. I know that if I'm growing myself and I'm continually focusing on my mindset, I have more to offer to others. And as a result of that, people are going to come to me because of the results that I'm offering. And so the reality is that, and I said to this person, you and I are not that different. I'm now in a position where I'm probably in the top 0.5% of the earners in the world of network marketing today. And you're at the top of your game. And I said, the only difference between you and I is that when you are finished selling a home, you've got to go find another listing. And you've got to keep doing that and keep doing that and keep doing that. When I build my business, I build it once and it'll pay me for the rest of my life. I'm not saying one's better than the other. You can decide about that. But the reality is that if you want this to pay you like a business, you've got to treat it like a business. Now, with that being said, that includes mindset. You've got to learn to manage your emotions and manage your mindset. Every one of you need to understand where we are right now, okay? We're pioneers. Like, we are pioneers. It wasn't that long ago that they were talking about this product in Thailand, and they didn't even have a product yet. They were walking around with a piece of paper going, listen, this is what's coming, right? That's what they were doing to build their business. It wasn't too long ago. Steve, Will, you guys remember? We didn't have a customer service department. It was 6 months ago. It's like, who do you call? It's like, I don't know. There's nobody to call. There is no customer service. People are complaining about having to wait an hour to get on the phone with customer service. Try having no customer service. My point is that's how companies launch, right? You go back to every single successful company inside and outside of the network marketing industry, and I promise you, there were challenges, there were hiccups, there were struggles, there was pain. But guess what? It's the pioneers that they write about in the history books. So you got to stop focusing so much on the little things and start focusing on the big picture. The big picture is this opportunity will never be as good as it is right now, today, ever again. And you know what? I'm going to be forgiving of some of the little things, right? Would I love to have a technical support line? Oh my goodness. Please, it would make my life so much easier. But the reality is I know it's coming. I know it's going to be there. I know 30 days from now with Taylor Worry working on customer service, it's going to be awesome. And I know 90 days from now we'll have a tech support deal. But here's the thing. When you allow yourself to get so discombobulated, I don't even know if that's a word, with this stuff, and you get so like just caught up in it, it takes you out of your game. And your game is 80% of your time should be talking about this opportunity to new people. And the reality is another thing I want to say is you've got to understand the chain of solution. You can't, here's the thing. Whenever there's a question or a problem, a lot of people want to just quickly go post about it in the group or go post about it in the WhatsApp chat, try to get a simple solution rather than going and trying to get that information and looking for it themselves. So we're going to be doing a training where we talk about where to find that information. First of all, in your back office, there's FAQs, and they're updating those all the time, and you can get some great information there. Second of all is you can go online and just Google something as simple as how do I hook up my Hika app? How do I hook up my Hilo app? From there, you go to your upline. From there, if they can't get that information, then they go to their upline. But what we see is a lot of people that just want to quickly become frantic because they don't have the answer right away, and they go post something in a group. Well, let me give you a different perspective. Let's say I'm the brand new person that Steve Carter has been working his butt off to bring into the business, and he finally got him in after 2 months, and he just welcomed him to that group, and the first thing that he sees is, hey, I can't figure this out. It's not working, and panic when in all reality, there's typically a simple solution to the problem. It's just a matter of getting that information and finding that solution. And it now just immediately took that person's belief away overnight. So you got to understand that it's about managing your emotions. Understand everything is not going to be perfect right from the very beginning. Every time iPhone releases a new phone, they have updates regularly. Why? Because there's kinks, there's bugs, there's problems, and they have to work those things out. And guys, I'm just telling you right now, it may be too soon for some people. It may be too soon because everybody that wants it perfect, I'm telling you, it's not going to be perfect right now, but I guarantee you a year from now it will be. But the truth is that if you can position yourself in the beginning stages with a company that has all of the signs of becoming one of the next giants in the industry, there's a lot of money that can be made. And I can tell you that the timing and where we are right now is so, I wish I could take what I have in my head and what's in Steve's head and Will's head and put it in each and every one of you so you could truly understand where we're at. And so my advice to all of you is when you have a bad day, when you have challenges, when somebody returns their product, guess what? Take a deep breath, relax. It's not the end of the world. Mama said there'd be good days and bad days, but at the end of the day, the truth is that we're going to the top. I know where I'm going. I know I'm going to be at the top. I know Steve's going to be at the top. We're going to be having a good time up there. And I know every single one of you that lock arms with us right now at this stage of the game, you make that decision, you manage your emotions, you do your personal development daily, you try to get to the events, you plug into the calls, and you know what? Just know that it's all going to be good. It's going to be okay because we've got an amazing team behind us, and we've come a long way from the time that we were showing pictures of this device. We've come a long way from when we didn't have a customer service department, and I know that it can be frustrating when you need to get an answer, but just trust me, it's going to get better, it's going to get better, and it's going to get better. This is what every single company goes through in the pioneering stages, and every one of you is a pioneer, and I just want to remind you, it's the pioneers they write about in the history books. That's all I've got, Will.
Outstanding job as always. Thank you, Travis. Can't add anything to that, so certainly won't even try. But guys, you truly see there, number one, that someone like Travis goes through the same things that you do. It's not a matter of whether it happens to him. It's a question of what he does about it. He's got the right mindset, what we just talked about, the right attitude, and you also can see the passion that he has for this business. I guarantee you, if you want to know, well, what's different about maybe the leaders and the way they approach the business than myself, one of those things is passion and posture. I guess that's two, but you get the point. No one's going to sit across from Travis or Mike or Steve or myself or Beth, who you'll hear from in a minute, and tell us that the business doesn't work or that it's beneath them or anything along those lines. We're professionals in this industry. We know what success takes. We know what we have, and we are looking for people who are qualified to work with us rather than the other way around. So that is one thing. I'm sure we'll talk about that on a future call that could be that aha moment for you. Developing some posture that gives you the correct understanding, which is that people should be, quote unquote, interviewing to earn your time as opposed to you chasing them around. So with that, now I want to move on to a a person who you actually heard from last week, and she truly is blazing a trail. She and her husband came to the company at the end of May. They have a lot of different things going on in their lives. She is actually a doctoral student, and her husband is a chiropractor, and she has some pretty good experience in the industry, more than 15 years, and has been a top producer. But they came to the company at the end of May. They hit diamond their first cycle, and just 4 weeks later were promoted to grand diamond, and they're on their run for president. So I am very pleased to be able to introduce her to the team and to our training process here. So please pay close attention to Beth Hodec. Beth, let me unmute you. Okay, take it away.
Awesome. No, thank you for inviting me to share a little bit tonight. It's been a fast and furious 5 weeks, and there are so many different things that I think I could share about those first 5 weeks, but I'm going to narrow it down to just a couple. I want to share a few things. My overarching context of kind of what I've learned in the past 5 weeks with World is everything is in layers. So what I want to share tonight is just the overarching kind of layers of learning, I guess, in the first 5 weeks and how they all kind of tie in together, because there's some definite black and white things that I've learned in this business that that haven't been in other businesses. So I just kind of want to share a few of those. For example, I know, and I'm sure most on this call have kind of gone through the different layers of learning and getting started. For example, we get started and we're super, super excited. And then that excitement lasts for sometimes, an hour, a day, a week, a month. But after that, there's some kind of anxiousness that sets in, or some sort of, I call it frankness. It's that frantic anxious. And it's really when you're kind of figuring out, oh my goodness, what's going on here? What have I joined? You're kind of coming into this space of sort of unconscious, I'm consciously incompetent and I don't know what to do. And in that excitement and that anxious stage has been something that we're actually celebrating in our team, because that is something that is that happens in order to get you to the investment stage in your business and investing in yourself, which Travis was just talking about. So we're in this space of sort of just really celebrating each other and knowing that we have the opportunity to really dig into that third level, going from the excitement to the anxiousness, and then really getting into the investment stage, which is where the growth really, really digs in. And that's where you see the payoff later. So I think that those 5 stages that you hit before you ever hit payoff, the excitement, and then the anxious, and then now we're kind of getting into the investment stage of our business. And that's when you really plug into the system and then ultimately have the growth and you're able to have that payback. And by payback, I don't mean necessarily money. I just mean that feeling and that thought that, all the late nights that you've stayed up and all those, all the crazy hours and all the sacrifices that you've made have been worth it. So from a learning space, and I'm very much a student in this right now, is just kind of celebrating that investment stage. So the layers of learning have been huge. The other thing I just want to point out, because I think it might be useful for other new teams, something that I've noticed as well, kind of goes along with the layers of learning. When we hear about the vision and we have the vision and you connect to the why and really connect to your overarching reason for being here, many of us can get super, super, super excited and jump right in. And so one of the things, if you just, and actually I have this written on a slide, but if you talk about the different layers of learning being your vision and belief, and then strategy and skill is level 2, right? So level 1 is vision and belief. Level 2 is strategy and skill. Level 3 is action or massive action. Level 4 is following the system. And then level 5 is ultimately growth and duplication. That's what we all want, right? One of the things we've learned is so often our team has gotten so excited and we jump right into massive action, which is great. But what is even better is when you can connect and plug into the system, like these calls, like all the support that you guys offer. That's when you really can master it, because you don't just jump from the vision to the massive action. You got to skill up a little bit. So if you go right from L1 to L3 and you're missing L2, there can be some breaks in the chain, and that can really create some problems. So we've really been appreciative, extremely appreciative of all the skill and the training that this group has done, because that really keeps that vision plus the strategy plus the action. And then all you have to do is follow the system. So I think one of the things that's been crazy with that layers of learning as well has been actually following the system. This is the first business that I've ever been involved in that in order to be better, you have to simplify everything. And in that, I mean, the people that I'm seeing sometimes that are struggling the most are the professional salespeople, because they really try to handle everything themselves and they don't just always trust the system. And I've learned over and over and over in the past month, the patterns of success are so evident. It's so black and white. It's not, oh, this kind of works sometimes. No, it works all the time. It works absolutely all the time. Be coachable. Just listen to following the process and what you guys have to say. And so with that, the little tidbit, I think William just sort of mentioned it, but a tip that we figured out with the introduction is just the posturing or the positioning plus brevity. You know, the positioning plus brevity equals success. So just being able to position and posture yourself in such a way, and that means the company too, and your upline and everything, just being able to position yourself in such a way that they are interviewing you and being able to honestly create that pull energy and not any push energy. You know, I've to date, I've not talked or sold or overcome objections to one person in this business. Not one. I don't do it. They see it or they don't. It's all right with me. The way that we tend to look at it and we talk about it, the way I look at it is it's honestly like a stoplight. You know, some people are on green and they're ready to go. Some people are yellow and they're cautious. And then some people are red and they're not ready. But either way, it's not really a no. I'm just kind of reading them like a stoplight. Are they green? Are they, yellow? Are they red? Ready to go. So they're just kind of simply ready, not ready. But with that said, the positioning and the posturing plus brevity equals success. That's the formula. That's it. Just simply plug them in the system, do exactly what you guys are saying to do. And I've never in my life had such a high conversion rate, ever. I've never had such a high conversion rate. And that is just simply following the tools that you guys have put out there, that Mike and Travis and Steve and William and everyone has put out there. It's just literally doing what you're telling us to do. And that's been different in this business than any other business. So the other little layer of learning, so again, just kind of the things I've learned, the layer of learning going from vision, strategy, action, following system is not missing that step 2. That's been huge. So skilling up a little bit, basically. Not just jumping into massive action without some kind of learning. And then also getting into the, celebrating the anxious phase and celebrating that. When someone calls me and I feel that they're sort of all hyped up, then I'll say, gosh, I hear you might be a little anxious. Let's go have a glass of wine and celebrate. This is going to get fun. This is where it gets fun. This is where we can actually dig and invest in ourselves. So trying to make them feel good about that, knowing that that's normal. All this is normal. Let's just get to the next step. And then lastly, just of course, and this is the same, but just the difference in selling and serving. I mean, this is absolutely not selling. This is just simply serving. And so when Travis talked about growing himself and his mindset and being able to offer more to people, I've truly never felt like more of a student in my life. I actually think I texted Travis the other day. I said, I'm so consciously incompetent in so many ways, and I have so much to learn, and I have so many things to learn, that I'm really in the space of truly consciously incompetent in a lot of ways. And so I'm hopeful over the next couple of weeks that I'll move into a space of consciously competent, but I know that that's going to require a lot of work. And so I think that I'm looking forward to that. And I know that our group is also looking forward to that. We have an amazing group of individuals that are really ready to run. So I just, because I've never spoken on this call, I want to make sure that you guys know how much we appreciate your love and effort and skill and professionalism into rolling out this type of training, because it's absolutely second to none. So thank you.
Absolutely, Beth. Thank you. Those were unbelievable tips. And I know this is just the first of many trainings that you'll do for the team. We appreciate you and your perspective, and congratulations on your success again. And guys, you know, just building on what you heard there before we get to our next presenter, I remember when I was newer in the industry, and you know, you can get so invested in one potential business partner. See, now I understand any one person is really irrelevant. It's just running the numbers over time, because the person who I don't expect to do anything is going to be the one who knocks it out of the park. And the person who, you know, I'm thinking is going to be the one who's just going to hit a home run is going to be the person who does nothing. And so there was one guy who was so, you know, I was so badly in need of, in my mind, in my business. And I was talking to a mentor about it, and the guy had come in from he drove like 8 hours, he and his wife, to meet with us. And so he talked all about his background, and he had been a business owner, and he'd done all these things. And, you know, he was looking for his next project, and his wife owned a business, and it was in the, you know, the print industry, and she had all these fancy things that she talked about. And so ultimately, you know, as I was pressing my mentor to try to find a way to make this work, to help my business, and my first opportunity, he looked at me and he said, they need the opportunity just like anybody else. He said, he needs a job and she sells printing. That's the bottom line. And it just totally changed my perspective, because when I boiled it down, he was right. That all, if I took away all the flowery language and everything that was being said, you know, in terms of what they were saying about who they were and what they did, that's what it was in the final analysis. And so ultimately what Beth said there is so true, that people see it or they don't. Now, you don't burn a bridge. I look at it like people being in a room. Some people, you know, I check on them and they're sound asleep. So I could probably close that door for now. I'm going to check later. Others, you know, they're stirring a little bit. I leave that door cracked. Some, though, I get to the room, they're sitting up in bed and they're like, what took you so long? I'm ready to get up. And those are the people that I really want to run with. But all of those people I'm going to revisit at some point in time. So much good information coming on today's call. We really want you guys to understand the professional's mindset in this industry. We're trying to get to as many of the right people as we can. We don't get bogged down in any one person. In my case, for you introverts, I look at, I'm rejecting people before they can reject me, because I hate rejection. 40% of the population is rejection sensitive. That's you. Think about you qualifying people. They need to earn your time. And anything that doesn't fit with what you're looking for, you can respectfully tell them that the opportunity is not right for them. And you know what? Some people say, well, gosh, you know, I might lose somebody. Even in the small chance you did, number one, your numbers will make it up. But number two, what it does for your mindset, there's nothing better as a rejection sensitive person than rejecting someone before they can reject you. I promise you, try that. And that's another area where you'll see your business explode. So guys, we're going to keep things moving forward. One thing I want to do before we bring on our last trainer is I want to make sure that everyone is aware of a couple of key things. Number one, the back office will be down for several hours tomorrow as they implement a number of new things. My understanding is that it will be new marketing materials. It'll be the new configuration for the packages. Those will be up on our sites, and some other things that we're not even totally aware of yet. So the cycle ends, I think 10 a.m. Tomorrow, and someone correct me if I'm off on that, but it definitely ends early in the morning. That 10 a.m. is East Coast time. And then the system will be down during that period of time. I believe it comes back up at 2 p.m. Eastern, and then we're ready to go on this new cycle. So make sure that you log in sometime tomorrow afternoon, East Coast time, just to see what's new and different, get yourself informed, as Beth said, but then get ready for massive action. And to help us to bring it home in that area, there's a gentleman who needs no introduction. I'm sure he's well known to all of you, certainly is to me, somebody I've known now for 10 years or so. We've had a lot of success working together, a lot of fun working together. He's somebody who's not just a colleague, a friend, but truly family. So I wanted to bring him on to talk again a little bit about maybe having vision or anything else that he chooses to speak about. He's been a multiple top producer for multiple companies in the industry and is now here a double president for now, but well on his way to president, millionaire, and beyond. So please welcome double president, Mr. Steve Carter. And now let me unmute, which kind of steals the thunder, but go ahead, Steve.
I appreciate it, William. Hey guys, listen, let me just say this. I want to commend William. I want to commend Travis. I want to commend Beth. And I'm sitting back and I'm listening to the training. I know we've got, 100 plus people on here, which we, by the way, team, we should have far more than that. I mean, we've got thousands of people on this team. And so learning and training is so critical. It's so important. And that's what William covered. That's what Travis covered. That's what Beth covered. And guess what? That's also what I'm going to cover. It's about really getting your mindset right, really getting focused on what you want in terms of results. And here's the thing I want to touch on just to kind of close things out is that we all come to the table with different experiences, and we all come to the table with different thought processes. We all want the same result, but we're all in different stages in terms of how we're thinking. And how we think is an indirect influence on how we act. And it becomes a direct correlation, actually. So the reality is you've got to start to ask yourself, where am I? And then I heard Travis say early on when he talked about a young lady that was talking about getting her money back and returning her product. And he said, look, how many trainings have you been to? How many events have you been to? How many calls have you been on? And I can assure you, just as these incredible leaders just trained, that when you start to disconnect, it is almost inevitable that your excitement goes one direction, which is south. That is almost inevitable. It's the analogy I like to use is, sometimes I like to get back there and put some things on the grill, and I cook, and I love doing that. I love when it's a bunch of people coming over to the house and I've got steaks and turkey burgers and stuff on the grill. But the analogy I can use with that is if you're using a grill with charcoal, let one charcoal fall off the grill or let one charcoal separate from the group. That one will inevitably cool off. But when you keep them all together and you keep them piled in together and you keep that heat on it, it stays lit. The entire pile stays lit. And that's really what it is when it comes to how you're going to think and your thoughts are going to dictate your behavior in terms of what you're going to get from this. And let me just say this. When I talk about the fact that each of us kind of comes with different levels of thoughts and different experiences, different aspirations, different goals, even those of us that have been in this industry for quite some time, and I can say myself personally, 22 years. I've been full-time for 21 of the 22 years. And even having a lot of success, William just talked about how he and I go way back. And we both earned multiple seven figures in the industry. And we don't say that from an arrogant standpoint at all. It's just, that's our backstory. That's our track record. That's what we've been blessed to have done. But know that there was a time that we were getting in this industry not knowing what the heck to do, not knowing which direction to go, not knowing how to successfully build it. But the only way we learned was we identified individuals that we could relate to. We identified individuals that were where we wanted to be. And not only were we willing to plug in and learn from those individuals, but we were willing to implement the things that we learned, because these trainings are phenomenal. I'm sitting here listening to William, I'm listening to Travis, I'm listening to Beth, and I will put our leadership up against anybody. I'll put us up against anybody in terms of knowledge, in terms of professionalism, in terms of class and elegance. I'll put us up against anybody. But the reality is, it doesn't matter how good any of us are or how much we can impact you. If you don't take the information and you don't take the feeling that you get when you're in the presence of us all, and you don't go implement that, it doesn't amount to anything. And here's the thing I want you to realize. Every single one of us, every single one, we're building our own business within a very successful business. So here's how I look at it. World Global Network is incredibly successful. $100+ million company, I think $150 million company now. And you've got individuals that have earned 7 figures. And in some cases, how about this? Multiple 7 figures in less than 1 year. Individuals that were marketing this product before they physically had it in their presence. They were actually marketing a PDF of what the device was going to look like when it comes out. You talk about faith, you talk about vision, you talk about anticipation. That's when you really, really understand where people's leadership levels are. And I can tell you right now, even myself, and I say this because I always like to be transparent, because I know that if I was ever thinking a certain way that needed to be tweaked, needed to be improved, then I know that there's some others that can learn from what I'm going to share. And I can tell you this, I came into this business 5 months ago. Now, mind you, I came in with 20 years of experience. And so there were some different things that how I was viewing the industry. I was never negative toward the industry, but the thing I know is that we built big organizations up close to 100,000 people in our last company. And when things don't work out, you feel like, okay, wait a minute, I'm starting over. And let me just say this, is that you never are really starting over if you've built enough respect and enough of a following and you've had a big enough impact for people to still want to roll with you and follow your vision. So I had to say to myself, you know what, Steve? I'm anxious. I heard Beth talking about that, and I could so relate to that. And that's why I'm saying that even those that are on the level that some people are aspiring to get to, some of you are saying, man, I can't wait to hit double president. I'm thinking I can't wait to get the hell away from double president and get to president millionaire and then grand president millionaire. And so there's different perspectives, but here's how I was looking at it. I was thinking, you know what? I got to get this done. And I was anxious to get back to what I'm accustomed to. Accustomed to meaning even cash flow. If we're going to be transparent, I'm talking 50, 60 grand coming in every month, no matter what you do. That's the lifestyle that we created. And we did that for many, many years consecutively. Again, not bragging. I'm not speaking from an arrogant perspective. I'm telling you that I'd gotten to a point where that was just the way it was. Every month, no matter, I don't care if I didn't talk to anybody, 50, 60 grand dropped in the account. And when you find yourself in a position where you've got one of the most incredible products, you've got one hell of a lucrative compensation plan, you've got a leadership team that we can actually call an all-star cast, you've got ownership and corporate that are light years ahead of where people are in technology, it's really a perfect storm. And so for me to enter into this business 5 months ago and almost come in with the same behavior as I had when things were on autopilot, where you didn't have to do a whole lot and this money was piling in, to come in and think that you could have that same behavior is being naive, even with 22 years of experience. And so when I was in Beverly Hills recently, and even in Vegas, something just clicked. And it said, look, Steve, I don't know if it's pride or what, but it's like, shake all of this and get back to work. Get back in the trenches. Get back to doing what got you to the level of a lifestyle that most people dream about. And because that didn't happen by accident, that took some hard work. So I'm encouraging each and every one of you to understand that network marketing will always yield your effort back to you. It just shows up later on. So whatever you do today, don't get frustrated if you don't see the result tomorrow. That result may show up 60 days, 90 days. It might show up 6 months from now. But you've got to start priming the pump right now. And so I'm at a point where when that thing clicked recently and I said, Steve, you got to get back to what we used to say, dance with who brung you. You got to get back to getting in the trenches, talking to people, and really having this inside your blood to where you're like, okay, every day is game on. And over the last couple of weeks, I can feel a complete difference in how I was behaving prior to 2 weeks versus the last 2 weeks. And it's scary that how the hell do you let 4 or 5 months go by? And even though you come in the gates, we blasted to double president. We've got good money, made $20-something thousand in 2 weeks, and run the disclaimer after this, William, all of that. But the bottom line is I was thinking to myself, okay, we got this. But if dust starts to settle and you realize, look, you can't stop priming the pump because the water will slow down. You got to keep priming. And we've got incredible leaders in here. So here's what I said. I know this, and I want to teach you this, guys. Look, everybody's going to build in clusters. We've all heard the 80-20 rule. I really think it's more like 90-10. It could possibly be 95-5. And that's real. That's real. Meaning, let's say 10% of your organization, they're going to generate 90% of the production. They're going to do 90% of the work. They're going to create 90% of the excitement. That's just what happens. So what John Maxwell always teaches, if you know that, then you have to ask yourself, where are you spending your time? So I am being very careful at identifying, look, because everybody's got a shot. Everybody got a turn to say, look, I'm the one, and not just by mouth, not just by lip service, not by raising their hand, but I'm talking about everybody's got a shot to show their upline if they need that upline support, that I'm the one by stepping up and saying, how many people am I talking to every day? How many people am I getting on these trainings? How many people am I getting on the webinars? How many people am I getting out here opening my mouth? How many people am I going on Facebook and I'm piquing interest? How many people am I doing that with? And if you're not doing that, you better believe that upline or anybody else won't recognize it. They won't recognize it if you're not doing it. So we've got to look at this. Every single day, I'm asking myself, who have I talked to? Last night, I did the overview. I had about 8 personal guests on there last night. I think 6 out of the 8 ready to roll. So the reality is, I always think to myself, man, what if we could get the masses of the team just duplicating what we do when it clicks for us? And that's what duplication really means. So we need you guys feeding off of myself and William and Beth and Travis and Mike Sims and Melanie and Greg and the leaders that have hit president or grand diamond. Look, guys, it's about us stepping our game up. And every single one of us holding ourselves accountable, because I want you to ask yourself a question. If your team, even if your team is an army of 1 or army of 2 or army of 5 or 15 or 50, whatever size group you have right now, if your team were to do what you do on a regular basis, how much exponential growth would kick in? That's what I always ask myself. And when I can ask that question, and I can get excited about if people were doing what I was doing, then I know I'm in the right zone. I know I'm in the right mindset. I know that when I'm in that zone, I look up, it'll be 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm just finishing a call. It might be a West Coast call. And I'll realize I hadn't eaten in 4 hours. Or I'll realize, I've been going since 7 in the morning and now it's 2:30 in the AM. And that's what it takes to get in the trenches. But here's what I want you to understand, is that it always ends up showing up later. So prime the pump now. Peak interest on a daily basis now. Get good at identifying those 10% that deserve your time, that you want to get in the trenches with. Let the 90% do what they're going to do. Love them all the same, but you better work with them differently. I don't treat anybody differently on the team because they show me whether or not they're a 10%er or a 90%er. They're a 10%er, I'm embracing, let's roll, let's talk every day, let's get on, let's game plan, let's compare notes, let's hold each other accountable, and let's share our stories. They're 90%, I love them, I'm going to text you the information, be on the call, be on the webinar. If you show up, great. If you don't, great. I love you anyway. One day, hopefully you might wake up and be a 10%er. That's how we've got to approach this, and we've got to go all the way. Last thing I'll say is this. Because when I start looking at what was really going on in this company, I had a conversation with Ramasio Fulcher. And I said to Ramasio, there was a couple things I was looking at. I was looking at, residuals and things like that and kind of trying to calculate all of this stuff. And Ramasio looked at me and said something. And every now and then it's like, whoa, aha, like Oprah says, aha moment. He said, Steve, listen, man, I get it. I understand what you mean in terms of, understanding exactly how the residuals go. We want to be able to track the residuals and all this stuff. But he said, but look, man, all I know, in 7 months, I made 1.6 million. I was like, you know what? You're right. And it made me say, you know what? We can work all this other stuff out later. He made 1.6 million in 7 months. He walks on 2 feet like I do, puts on pants like I do, has the same comp plan that I do, markets the same doggone helo that I do, has the same CEO Fabio Galdi as I do, can market in the same amount of countries that I can. What in the heck is the difference? It's what he's done in those 7 months, which leads me back to, I look at how much time that I feel has been wasted. And I say that because it's relative to what my aspirations and goals are. We're going great right now, but it's not 1.6 million. And that is what my wake-up call was. And hopefully I've transferred some of those thoughts to you. So before you go to bed at night, I want each and every one of you to ask yourself 2 questions. 1, what did I do all day today, and am I happy with it? And 2, how many other people in my team are on the same page as I am and willing to get in the trenches and do everything that it takes? Because those are the ones that you need to intelligently spend the most time with. Love everybody else, but wait for and give them all the information, give them the resources, make sure they got the schedule, make sure they receive the text blast, they're on the list, all of that. But the ones that want to run, and you don't have to ask the ones that want to run if they want to run, because they're showing you already they want to run. Those are the ones that I'm locking my arms around and bear hugging and saying, let's get to the promised land together. Because until I can say in 8 months I've made 3 million, or like Nat and Shanita, in 10 months I've made 5 million, until that's the case, the bar is always up here. So I'm always looking up to the bar and I'm saying, okay, there's a bar that I still need to stretch for. And I believe that the good Lord has given all of us on this webinar the ability to do it when our paradigm shifts. Mine shifted 2 weeks ago and I've been in this thing 5 months. And so I'm ready to roll. William, I'm going to turn it back over to you. I will lock arms with you guys, man, in any kind of a business. The professionalism that you bring to the table, William, the professionalism that Travis brings. Beth knocked it out the park today. I know Melanie and Greg kill it all the time, and Mike is off the chain. I mean, we've got a hell of a team, guys, and I just believe that we need to come together and say, let's play ball on a whole nother level, to where we're not just dominating in a good way and in a loving, competition way. We're not just dominating world, but let's dominate this industry and get everybody looking at world and become the magnet that's making everybody want to roll with us, based on the fact that it's undeniable what we're doing. So back to you, William, man. Hopefully people got something out of that. I sure did.
Outstanding, Steve. People I know definitely did get something out of it. We appreciate you. We thank you for that great training and all the things that you're doing to support the growth of the team. And guys, Steve said it best. Nothing could truly be added to that call to action. The one thing I want you all to understand as we wrap up is that leaders in this industry have typically trained themselves to think a certain way. So in my case, anytime somebody tells me anything, my first thought, whether I say it or not, is we'll see. Anytime somebody tells me what they're going to do, we'll see. So what I want to challenge you all to do now is, don't go to your upline, don't go to Mike, don't go to your mentor in the business and tell them what you're going to do. Let their computer show them what you're doing. You have all the tools, just as we said. Everything is in place for you to be able to go out there and achieve what you've said is important to you. None of us set your goals for you. None of us brought you to world. You're here to achieve something that you say is significant. If it is that significant, then let's go out there and get it done. If the time isn't now, then when is the time? So we are going to wrap up our training this evening. We appreciate all of you for being here. I want many of you to be recognized on at the end of this cycle for achievements based upon what you've gotten out of this and the other events that we put on. That tells us that we're on the right track. So we'll have an outstanding presentation tomorrow night at 9:30. Keep in mind that the cycle ends in the morning. Get ready to run. This cycle is going to be the big one. So until then, make this your day and weekend World Global. Everyone have a great night, and God bless.